The throne room stretched vast and cold, its black walls absorbing light like a hungry void. War Chief Yura sat upon her obsidian throne, her forearms resting on the armrests with practiced patience. Her crimson skin bore the scars of 1,000 battles, each mark a story of victory. Around her neck hung the chain of conquerors, forged from the melted weapons of defeated enemies. 200 years she had ruled the Kaleth Empire, and 200 years she had received tribute from those who learned to fear her name. Today was the annual ceremony. Representatives from 40 conquered worlds lined the hall, each carrying offerings to prove their continued submission. Yura watched them with golden eyes that missed nothing. Her personal guard stood at attention, their weapons ready but unnecessary. No one dared challenge her here. Not anymore. The first delegate approached, a slug-like creature from the water worlds. It presented rare crystals that glowed with inner fire. Yura nodded and servants took the tribute away. Next came the insect people from the desert planets, offering genetic samples that could enhance warrior breeds. Then the stone folk with their advanced weapons. One by one they came, and one by one she accepted their fear disguised as respect. Yura felt nothing. Victory had become routine. Conquest had become boring. She ruled the largest empire in known space, yet some days she wondered what it was all for. Her advisors stood beside the throne, whispering calculations of wealth and power. They cared about such things. She had stopped caring decades ago. The Drex slavers came forward next, their scales clicking against the polished floor. Their leader, a bent creature with too many eyes, bowed low. "Great War Chief, we bring you something unique. Something impossible?" Yura leaned forward slightly. The Drex rarely offered anything interesting. They dealt in common slaves, unremarkable creatures from primitive worlds. "Speak. We found this specimen on the outer rim, Great One. At first we thought it was another unknown species, but our scanners revealed something extraordinary." The Drex gestured, and 2 guards dragged forward a figure in a heavy gray cloak. "It is human." The throne room fell silent. Every delegate turned to stare. Yura's 3 hearts stopped beating for one impossible moment, then hammered against her ribs. Her 4 hands gripped the armrests hard enough to crack stone. "Remove the hood," she commanded, her voice steady despite the storm inside her chest. The Drex yanked the hood back. Standing in chains was a young male, his skin pale compared to her crimson, his hair black and straight. He had 2 arms like the weak species she remembered, 2 legs, fragile bones that could snap so easily. But his eyes met hers without fear, brown and steady, almost curious. Yura stood slowly, her 7-foot frame towering over her council. She descended the steps, each footfall echoing in the silent hall. The delegates backed away, sensing something dangerous in her movement. She stopped 3 paces from the human, studying him like a ghost made flesh. "What is your name?" she asked in the common trade language. "Te," he answered. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "That is not possible." Yura circled him slowly, her warrior's instinct examining him for weapons, for tricks, for any explanation that made sense. "I destroyed Earth 200 years ago. I watched it burn. I confirmed every scan. No ships escaped. No colonies remained. I ended humanity." Te turned his head to follow her movement, still meeting her eyes. No tribute had ever dared such direct contact. "You destroyed Earth," he agreed. "You did not destroy humanity." Yura's primary advisor stepped forward. "War Chief, this must be a trick. Perhaps a genetic experiment. A clone created from old samples. There are no humans. We know this, but you're a new species." She had conquered hundreds of them. She knew the weight of a gaze that carried history, the stance of someone who belonged to a people, not a laboratory. This was no clone. This was human, real and impossible. She remembered the final battle above Earth. Her fleet had surrounded the planet, weapons charged, victory certain. The humans had fought desperately, their primitive ships no match for Kaleth power. She had admired their courage even as she ordered their destruction. When the planet's surface turned to glass and ash, she had felt something strange. Not satisfaction. Not quite regret. Something unnamed that haunted her quiet moments for 2 centuries. "How?" she asked Te, her voice dropping to something almost private despite the crowded hall. "How did you survive?" Te smiled slightly, and that smile carried something that made Yura's warrior instincts flare with warning. "That is a long story, War Chief, and I think you will want to hear it in private. You dare give me suggestions?" Yura's battle-trained reflexes wanted to strike him for such insolence. But curiosity, that old forgotten companion, stayed her hand. You stand in chains, offered as tribute by slavers, and you speak to me as if you have power here. I have the power of information you want, Tay replied. And you have the power to kill me before you hear it. We both know which choice serves you better. Yura stared at him for a long moment. Her counsel whispered urgently behind her. The delegates watched with fear and fascination. The Drek slavers looked confused, unsure if they had offered a prize or an insult. Finally, Yura spoke. Clear the throne room. Everyone out except my personal guard. But War Chief, her advisor protested, we should interrogate this creature properly. Let our specialist out. The word cracked like a whip. Her counsel bowed and retreated. The delegates fled with relief. The Dreks hesitated until Yura's guards moved toward them. Then they scurried away. When only her elite warriors remained, Yura circled Tay again. 200 years I have ruled. 200 years I have known that humanity was my greatest victory, the species that nearly matched us in war, that forced us to respect them even as we destroyed them. And now you appear impossible and calm, as if you expected this moment. I did expect it, Tay said. I volunteered to come here. Why? Because, Tay met her eyes again with that steady gaze, it is time for you to know the truth, War Chief. You destroyed our home, but humans learned long ago that home is not a place. Home is people, and people can hide anywhere. Yura felt her 3 hearts racing again, faster now. This was no ordinary tribute. This was something else entirely, something that might finally fill the hollow place victory had carved inside her. Then speak, human, she commanded. Tell me how you survived the unsurvivable. Tell me how you dare stand in my throne room and smile. Tell me why I should not finish what I started 200 years ago. Tay's smile widened slightly. Because, War Chief Yura, you are about to learn that destroying humanity was the worst mistake you ever made. Not for the reason you think, but because we became so much more than what you destroyed. The throne room felt colder suddenly, or perhaps it was just Yura, finally feeling something again after so many years of hollow conquest. Fear or excitement, she could not tell. Perhaps they were the same thing now. The guards removed Tay's chains at Yura's command. He rubbed his wrists but made no move to flee. Where would he go? The fortress was surrounded by her army. The planet was her capital, and space itself belonged to the Kaleth Empire. Yet he stood there with the calm of someone who held all the power in the room. Yura paced around him, her warrior's eye searching for weakness. Start from the beginning. How did humans survive Earth's destruction? Tay stretched his shoulders, working out the stiffness from the chains. Your intelligence network was excellent, War Chief. You tracked every human ship, every colony, every outpost. You destroyed them all one by one until only Earth remained. Your generals told you that eliminating the homeworld would end humanity forever. And it did. No. Tay turned to face her directly. It ended that version of humanity. The humans who lived openly, who fought proudly, who believed they could win through strength. You destroyed that humanity completely. Congratulations. Yura's upper hands clenched into fists. You mock me? I honor you, Tay replied, and his voice carried sincerity that confused her. You were thorough. You were brilliant. You gave us no chance to fight back, so we did the only thing left. We vanished. Explain. Tay walked slowly toward the throne, bold but not threatening. Yura's guards tensed, but she waved them back. 3 years before Earth fell, our leaders knew defeat was certain. They created a final desperate plan. 13 colony ships were built in secret, hidden in asteroid fields and dead moons. Not military vessels, not armed cruisers, simple transport ships with life support and basic supplies. My scouts would have detected them. They did detect them, Tay agreed, and destroyed them. All 13 were tracked and eliminated within the first year after Earth burned. Your reports confirmed it. I have read them. Yura stopped pacing. Then how? Those were decoys, War Chief. While your forces hunted those 13 ships, 26 others launched from Earth itself during the final days, hidden in the chaos of battle, camouflaged as debris. Moving on ballistic trajectories without active engines, they drifted in the dark for years, using no power that your scanners could detect. Yura's mind raced through battle records, through intelligence reports 2 centuries old. She had been so certain. Her advisors had confirmed every human signature eliminated. Where did they go? To primitive worlds, Tay said. Planets your empire had already surveyed and dismissed as worthless. Stone Age civilizations, pre-industrial societies, worlds without strategic value. Your charts mark them as beneath notice. We monitor all known worlds. You monitor known advanced worlds, Tay corrected. You watch for technology signatures, for radio waves, for engine signatures, for anything that marks civilization as worth conquering or defending against. You do not watch farmers. You do not watch villages. You do not count primitive people as threats. Understanding struck Yura like a physical blow. You hid among primitives. We became primitives, Tay said quietly. 26 colony ships landed on 26 different worlds. Some had native populations, some were empty. The humans destroyed their ships, buried their technology, and started over. They lived in huts. They farmed with hand tools. They forgot machines and computers and weapons. Within a generation, they looked exactly like any other primitive species scratching survival from dirt. For 200 years, Yura could not hide her disbelief. Humans would never accept such limits. Your species craves progress, technology, advancement. It defines you. It defined the humans you destroyed, Tay agreed. The ones you remember were conquerors like you, reaching always for the next discovery, the next frontier. But survival changes people, War Chief. When the choice is between pride and extinction, most choose life. Yura sat on the edge of her throne, processing this. Her 3 hearts beat irregularly, a sign of deep disturbance. My intelligence network spans the galaxy. We have eyes on thousands of worlds. How did 26 human colonies remain hidden? Because you were looking for humans, Tay said. Not farmers, not fishermen, not simple people with simple lives. Your spies searched for human ambition, human technology, human patterns. We gave you none of those. We gave you children playing in dirt. We gave you crops growing in fields. We gave you nothing worth noticing. Someone would have recognized your species. Many did, Tay admitted. Over 2 centuries, traders came, explorers passed through, missionaries from various species tried to uplift us. Most assumed we were just another primitive race. A few recognized human genetic markers. Those few either kept quiet or disappeared before they could report. We were very careful about who we let leave our worlds alive. The casual mention of murder made Yura reassess the calm man before her. You killed those who discovered you. We killed those who threatened to reveal us, Tay corrected without emotion. Survival requires difficult choices. You taught us that when you burned Earth. You taught us that mercy is a luxury for species that can afford to lose. We could not afford it. Yura studied him with new respect. This was not some soft survivor. This was a predator who had learned to hide his teeth. So humans lived as primitives for 200 years. Why reveal yourselves now? Why let yourself be captured and brought here? Because hiding was phase 1 of the plan, Tay said. Surviving was phase 1. But humans do not just survive, War Chief. We adapt, we grow. We change. 200 years is a long time. What changed? Tay smiled that strange, calm smile again. Everything. You scattered us across 26 different worlds with different environments, different challenges, different threats. Each colony adapted to survive their particular world. Some faced predators and became hunters. Some faced disease and became doctors. Some faced harsh climates and became engineers who could build from nothing. Without technology? Without your technology, Tay corrected. We remembered our knowledge. We passed it down through stories, through oral traditions, through careful teaching hidden from outside eyes. Generation by generation, we preserved what we were while pretending to be less. And when we were certain your empire had forgotten about humanity completely, we began phase 2, which was reconnection, finding each other again, building a new network not of ships and radios but of people and patience. It took decades, but slowly, carefully we reached out between colonies. We shared what we had learned. We shared how we had changed. Yura leaned forward. And now? Now we are something new, Tay said. Not the humans you destroyed. Not the weak primitives you ignored. Something evolved from 2 centuries of survival. Each colony specialized, adapted, became excellent at what they needed to be. And together we are stronger than we ever were when we stood openly against you. You threaten me, here in my fortress surrounded by my armies. I inform you, Tay replied calmly. There is a difference. War Chief Yura, you defeated humanity once because we fought you openly, predictably, proudly. We will not make that mistake again. If you try to destroy us now, you will not find ships to target or cities to burn. You will find ghosts. You will find shadows. You will find that every primitive world you ignored might hide humans. That every trade ship that docks in your ports might carry humans. That every servant in your fortresses, every laborer in your factories, every insignificant face in every crowd might be human. You infiltrated my empire? Yura's voice dropped dangerously low. We infiltrated the galaxy, Tay said. While you celebrated your victory, we spread. While you conquered other species, we hid among them. While you built your empire of strength, we built our network of patience. We are everywhere now, War Chief, and we waited until we were ready before revealing ourselves to you. Yura stood, her full height towering over him, all four arms flexing with barely contained rage. You dare speak of strength while standing defenseless before me? I could kill you with one hand. You could, Tay agreed, not backing away, and then you would learn nothing more. You would remain in ignorance while humanity continues to grow around you, or you could listen. You could learn. You could understand what you created when you tried to destroy us. They stood facing each other, predator and prey, except neither was certain anymore which was which. Finally, Yura spoke, her voice controlled but intense. What do you want, Tay? Why come here? Why reveal your survival? Because hiding forever is not living, Tay said. Because humans deserve to exist openly again. Because our children deserve to know their heritage without shame. And because, War Chief Yura, I think you are tired of easy victories. I think you are bored. I think you want something more than conquest. You know nothing about what I want. Then prove me wrong, Tay challenged. Reject what I offer. Kill me now. Continue as you have for 200 years ruling an empire that brings you no joy. Or choose differently. Choose to listen to what humanity has become. Choose to see if maybe, just maybe, we can offer you something more interesting than another dead species. Yura stared at him for a long moment. Then she gestured to her guards. Take him to the highest tower. Give him comfortable quarters, but guard him well. He does not leave that room without my permission. As the guards escorted Tay away, he looked back over his shoulder. Thank you for listening, War Chief. When he was gone, Yura sat alone in her throne room, her three hearts racing, her mind spinning with implications she had not considered in 2 centuries. Humanity 3 weeks passed. Yura told herself she visited Tai's tower quarters only for interrogation, for intelligence gathering, for strategic understanding of this impossible human survival. She told herself this even as she found excuses to go there daily, sometimes twice daily, always alone except for guards posted outside the door. The room was luxurious by prisoner standards. Large windows showed the capital city spreading below, a testament to Kaleth power built on conquest. Tay spent his mornings watching the city, his afternoons reading from the data tablets Yura provided. He never tried to escape. He never begged for freedom. He simply waited with that same calm patience that both frustrated and fascinated her. Tell me about Earth, Yura said one afternoon, settling into the chair across from where Tai sat by the window. She had stopped standing during these visits. Standing implied interrogation, dominance, control. Sitting implied something else. Conversation. What was it like before I destroyed it? Tay looked up from his tablet, surprised by the personal question. Most of their talks focused on human survival strategies, colony locations, technical details she tried to extract from him. He never gave her what she wanted directly, always dancing around specifics while offering broader truths. But this question was different. I never saw it, Tay admitted. I was born on New Haven, one of the colony worlds. Everything I know about Earth comes from stories passed down by elders, from preserved records, from songs and memories carefully maintained. Yet you consider it home. I consider it my people's grave. Tay corrected gently. There is a difference. Home is where we live. Earth is where we remember. Yura leaned back, studying him. 3 weeks of conversation had taught her that humans were more complex than she remembered. The ones she fought 2 centuries ago were warriors, scientists, diplomats. Tay was all of those things somehow, despite his simple appearance. Do you hate me for destroying it? Should I? Tay asked back. You did what war demanded. You saw humans as threats to your empire. You eliminated the threat. That is what leaders do. Most species would want revenge. Most species did not spend 200 years learning survival over pride, Tay said. Hate is expensive, War Chief. It costs energy that could go toward living. My people decided long ago that surviving was more important than hating you. That is not natural. Nothing about human survival was natural, Tay replied. Natural would have been dying with Earth. Everything after that required us to become something new. Yura stood and walked to the window, looking out at her capital. You said I was bored. During our first conversation, that I wanted something more than conquest, was I wrong? She did not answer immediately. The city below bustled with life from 100 conquered species, all working, trading, living under Kaleth rule. She had built this. Her strength had carved out the largest empire in known space. Other war chiefs from history were legends. She had surpassed them all, and yet, I have fought for 240 years, Yura said quietly. I earned my rank through blood and victory. I rose from the lower castes through merit when such things were thought impossible. I proved that skill matters more than birth. I became everything my people respect, and some nights I sit in my throne room and wonder what it was all for. What did you hope it would be for? Purpose, Yura said, surprising herself with the honesty. She had never spoken these thoughts aloud. Her advisors would see weakness. Her rivals would see opportunity, but Tay was a prisoner, a human who should have been extinct, a ghost from her past. Speaking to him felt like speaking to something outside the normal rules. When I was young and fought for every promotion, I thought that reaching the top would bring meaning. That ruling would give me purpose beyond the next battle. But conquest is empty, Tay. Each victory feels like all the others. Each new world added to the empire brings no satisfaction. Only the hollow question of what next. Then why continue? Because it is what I am, Yura said. I am a warrior. It is what Kaleth do. We conquer or we are conquered. There is no third option. Humans found a third option, Tay said. We neither conquered nor accepted conquest. We vanished and became something else. Your people are clever. Our people were desperate, Tay corrected. Cleverness came from having no other choice. But I wonder, War Chief, if perhaps you also have more choices than you believe. Yura turned from the window to face him. You think I should stop conquering? Make peace with my enemies? Become soft? I think you should decide what actually matters to you, Tay said. Not what Kaleth tradition says should matter, not what your advisors expect, what you personally want from the years you have left. Philosophy from a prisoner. Observation from someone with nothing to lose, Tay replied with a slight smile. You could kill me any moment. That freedom from consequences makes me honest. Yura found herself almost smiling back. When had she last smiled? My advisors want me to torture information from you. Locations of human colonies, names of infiltrators, technical details of your networks. Why do you not? Because... Yura sat down again, leaning forward with her upper elbows on her knees. The old codes of Kaleth warrior honor say that enemies who face you with courage deserve respect. You walked into my throne room in chains without fear. You speak truth even when lies might save you. You are... She searched for the word. Interesting. And I have not found anything interesting in a very long time. I am honored, Tay said, and seemed to mean it. You should be terrified, Yura countered. My interest might be the most dangerous thing that ever happened to you. Or the most important. They sat in silence for a moment, the strange understanding between them growing like some strange plant neither had intended to cultivate. Outside the window, the sun began setting over the capital, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. Tell me about your homeworld, Yura said. This new haven, what is it like? Tay's expression softened. Quiet, simple. We live in small villages, farm the land, fish the rivers. No cities like this, no technology visible to scanners. But beneath that simplicity, we remember. We teach our children human history in hidden schools. We train warriors in old fighting styles behind closed doors. We preserve medical knowledge, engineering principles, scientific theories, all waiting for the day we could emerge again. That day being now, that day being soon, Tay corrected. I am not the signal. I am the message before the signal. A test to see how you would react to learning humanity survived. And how am I doing? Yura asked with something almost like humor. Better than expected, Tay admitted. The war councils predicted you would either kill me immediately or torture me for information. They did not expect you to visit my quarters for philosophical discussions. Your war councils do not know me. Neither do I, Tay said. But I am learning, just as you are learning about humanity. Yura stood again, pacing the room with restless energy. My generals grow impatient. They want action. They smell weakness in my hesitation. Some whisper that I am compromised by my curiosity about you. Are they wrong? Perhaps, Yura admitted. Or perhaps I am finally listening to instincts I have ignored for too long. Every conquest I completed, I felt something missing. Every victory seemed hollow. I thought I needed bigger wars, stronger enemies, greater challenges. But maybe what I needed was a different kind of challenge entirely. What kind? I do not know yet, Yura said honestly. But you were right during our first conversation. I am bored. I am tired. And some part of me that I thought died in battle long ago woke up when you walked into my throne room. You represent something I thought I destroyed completely, a reminder that not all victories mean what I believed they meant. Tay stood and moved closer, bold but not threatening. Then let me offer you something, War Chief. Not as prisoner to captor, not as conquered to conqueror, but as one person to another. What? Time, Tay said. Time to decide what you actually want. My people have waited 200 years. We can wait a little longer. Take the time to think beyond what your empire expects. Think about what Yura wants, not what War Chief Yura must do. They are the same person. Are they? Tay challenged. The warrior who speaks to me in private seems different from the war chief who sits on that obsidian throne. One is tired and searching. The other is performing a role. Perhaps you have been performing so long you forgot there was a difference. Yura wanted to be angry at such presumption. She wanted to remind this human that she could end him with one hand, but the words stuck in her throat because they touched something true, something she had not let herself acknowledge in decades. You are dangerous, she said finally. I am honest, Tay replied. Sometimes those are the same thing. Yura walked to the door, then paused. My council meets tomorrow. They will demand I take action regarding the human question. They will want me to prepare for war, to hunt your colonies, to finish what I started 200 years ago. What will you tell them? I do not know yet, Yura admitted. But Tay, understand this. If I must choose between my curiosity about you and my duty to my empire, duty will win. I am Calith. I am War Chief. That comes before personal feelings. I would expect nothing less, Tay said. But the emergency council meeting was called at dawn. Yura had barely slept, her mind spinning through possibilities and implications. When she entered the war room, her 12 senior advisors were already assembled, their expressions grave. The chief intelligence officer, a scarred veteran named Krell, stood at the center of the tactical display. War Chief, he began without preamble, we have a situation. The display activated, showing 3 star systems highlighted in red. In the past 2 days, we have detected human genetic signatures in these locations simultaneously. Separate systems, light years apart. Preliminary analysis confirms they are genuine humans, not clones or experiments. Yura kept her expression neutral, though her 3 hearts accelerated. How is that possible? Humans lack faster than light travel. How could they appear in multiple systems at once? We do not know, Krell admitted, his frustration evident. But it gets worse. The signatures appeared, remained visible for approximately 2 hours, then vanished without a trace. No ships detected launching, no energy signatures that would indicate FTL jumps. They simply appeared and disappeared. Another advisor, the fleet coordinator, spoke up. War Chief, we must assume the human prisoner in the tower is connected to this. Whatever information he has been withholding, we need it now. I request permission to begin enhanced interrogation. Denied, Yura said flatly. War Chief, with respect. Denied, Yura repeated, her voice harder. I will handle the prisoner personally. Continue your analysis. Dismissed. The advisors filed out, confusion and concern clear on their faces. Only Krell remained, his eyes calculating. War Chief, may I speak freely? You always do. The council whispers that you are too close to this human, that your judgment is compromised. He held up a hand before she could respond. I do not agree with them. I have served under you for 90 years. I know you are no fool. But I must ask, do you know something we do not? Yura studied the younger warrior. Krell was ambitious but loyal, skilled but respectful of hierarchy. He reminded her of herself at that age. I know that humans are more dangerous than we assumed. More clever. More patient, and rushing to conclusions about them would be a mistake. Then what do you propose? Give me time, Yura said. I will get answers. But my way, Krell nodded slowly. As you command, War Chief, but time may be a luxury we cannot afford. When he left, Yura stood alone in the war room, staring at the 3 red markers on the display. Tay had been right. Humanity was everywhere now, and she was only beginning to understand what that meant. She climbed the tower stairs slowly, organizing her thoughts. When she entered Tay's quarters, she found him standing by the window again as if he had been expecting her. Perhaps he had. Your people appeared in 3 systems simultaneously, Yura said without greeting. Explain. Tay turned and his expression held something new. Not fear or satisfaction, but a kind of resigned determination. I wondered when your scouts would detect them. I am surprised it took 2 days. Stop dancing around answers, Yura commanded. How are humans moving between systems without FTL technology? We are not moving, Tay said. We are already there. War Chief, I told you humans scattered to 26 colony worlds. What I did not tell you is what happened after 2 centuries of isolated evolution. Speak plainly, Tay gestured to the chair, and Yura sat too curious to care about the presumption of him directing her. He remained standing, his posture that of a teacher about to explain something complex. Each colony faced different challenges, Tay began. New Haven, my homeworld, had dangerous predators. The colonists who survived were those who learned to move silently, to become hunters, to adapt their bodies to extreme physical demands. Over generations, we became stronger, faster, more resilient than baseline humans were. Natural selection. Basic biology. Now multiply that across 26 different worlds, Tay continued. Another colony, Brightwater, faced aggressive diseases. The humans there focused all their hidden knowledge on medicine, on biology, on genetic adaptation. They learned to modify their own bodies to resist illness, eventually to modify themselves in ways that would have been impossible before Earth fell. Yura leaned forward. Genetic engineering? Among other things. Another colony, Stone Sky, landed on a world with thin atmosphere and high radiation. They had to change or die. They changed. They adapted their bodies to process oxygen more efficiently, to resist radiation damage. What began as medical necessity became intentional evolution. You are saying humans on different worlds evolved differently? Not just evolved, Tay said. We specialized. Each colony became excellent at what they needed to survive. And when we finally reconnected, we shared our knowledge. The medical advances from Brightwater, the physical enhancements from New Haven, the radiation resistance from Stone Sky. All of it combining, spreading between colonies. This still does not explain simultaneous appearances across light years. Tay's expression grew more serious. One colony, Silent Deep, landed on a world with unusual properties. Crystals in the crust that created strange effects. The colonists there began experiencing something they called resonance. Mental connections between individuals. It started small, instinctive, but over 2 centuries they learned to develop it. Psychic abilities. Yura could not keep the skepticism from her voice. That is fantasy. It was fantasy until it was not, Tay replied. War Chief, you told me yourself that you have conquered hundreds of species. Surely some of them had abilities that seemed impossible until you encountered them. Yura thought of the crystal singers who could reshape matter with thought, the void walkers who survived in open space, the time seers who perceived probability. Yes, she admitted, but those are rare exceptions. Now humans are another exception, Tay said. Silent Deep developed true psychic ability. Not all humans have it. Maybe 1 in 1,000 shows the talent. But those who do can connect with others across any distance, share thoughts, share experiences. And with practice, a few of the strongest can even project physical manifestations. The signatures your scouts detected were projections. More like psychic holograms, Tay explained. Real enough to register on your genetic scanners, but not truly physical. The actual humans who generated them are safe on their colony worlds. But their consciousness, their presence appeared in those systems to test your detection capabilities. Yura stood abruptly, her mind racing. How many humans have this ability? Enough, Tay said. But that is not the point, War Chief. The point is that each colony developed something unique. Strength, resilience, medical knowledge, genetic manipulation, radiation resistance, psychic abilities, and more. 26 colonies, 26 different specializations. Separately, each colony is impressive but manageable. Together, combining all our adaptations, you became something greater than you were. Yura finished, understanding dawning. I scattered you across the galaxy thinking it would make you weak, divided. Instead, I gave you 26 different environments to adapt to, 26 different evolutionary paths. You created our crucible, Tay said quietly. You gave us 200 years to evolve under pressure. Every colony faced extinction and survived. Every colony found ways to become more than they were. And when we reconnected, we did not just share stories. We shared DNA, we shared techniques, we shared abilities. The humans emerging now are not the ones I destroyed. No, Tay agreed. We are something new. Some of us carry genetic modifications from multiple colonies. Some of us trained in techniques from 6 different worlds. We are not baseline humans anymore, War Chief. We are what humans became when you tried to destroy us. Yura walked to the window, looking out over her capital with new eyes. She had celebrated the destruction of humanity for 2 centuries. She had marked it as her greatest victory. And all that time, scattered across the galaxy in hiding, humans were transforming into something far more dangerous than what she had fought before. You said humans do not want war, she said finally, but you are revealing your capabilities. Why? Because hiding is no longer enough, Tay replied. Our children are being born with abilities that cannot be fully hidden. Our populations are growing. Eventually, someone will discover us no matter how careful we are. We can either control that revelation or wait for it to happen on someone else's terms. So you volunteered to be that revelation. I volunteered to be the messenger, Tay corrected, to give you fair warning, to show you that humanity survived and to give you a choice about what happens next. What choice? You threaten me from a position of strength. We inform you from a position of honesty, Tay said. War Chief, you could try to destroy us again. You could dedicate your empire to hunting down every human colony, but it would not be like last time. We will not fight you openly where your strengths can overwhelm us. We will fade into populations you have already conquered. We will disappear among the primitives you ignore. And sometimes when you are not looking, we will strike back in ways you cannot predict. Guerrilla warfare. Survival warfare, Tay corrected. We learned it over 2 centuries. But that is the path of continued conflict, of endless war, of neither side able to achieve real victory. Is that what you want? More hollow conquests that solve nothing? Yura turned to face him. But the message arrived simultaneously across every communication channel in the Kileth Empire. Not a threat, not a declaration of war. Simply a single word in human script, transmitted from thousands of locations at once. Here, Yura was in her war room when the alerts started flooding in. System after system reported the same phenomenon, human genetic signatures appearing not for hours this time but remaining visible and constant. Her command staff scrambled to track the sources, to understand the scope, to prepare responses. War Chief, Krell's voice was tight with controlled panic. We are receiving reports from 47 systems. Human signatures detected on stations, on ships, on colony worlds. They are not hiding anymore. The tactical display filled with red markers spreading across the map of the Empire like drops of blood. So many, too many. Yura felt her 3 hearts synchronize into battle rhythm, her warrior instincts flaring to life. Are they attacking? She demanded. No, Krell replied, confusion evident. They are just revealing themselves. Standing in public spaces, identifying as human, then waiting. Some are broadcasting messages. Would you like to hear one? Yura nodded. The display shifted to show a crowded marketplace on a trade station. A woman stood in the center, her features unmistakably human. Around her, various alien species backed away in shock. She spoke in clear, common trade language. My name is Hana, I am human. For the past 20 years I have lived among you as a trader. I have sold you goods, shared your meals, called some of you friends. I never lied about what I was. You simply assumed I was something else. Today I stop letting you assume. I am human. We are humans. We survived. We are here. The broadcast cut off. Yura stood frozen, processing implications that spiraled outward like cracks in ice. Then another alert. This one from her personal flagship, the Pride of Kileth, currently in orbit above the capital. War Chief, the communications officer's voice shook slightly. We have a situation on the flagship. Captain Nira requests immediate contact. The display shifted to show the bridge of her most powerful warship. Standing next to the captain was a human woman in Kileth military uniform, her rank insignia showing her as a senior navigation officer. Captain Nira, a veteran warrior Yura had trusted for decades, looked physically ill. War Chief, Nira began. This is Lieutenant Commander Hana. She has been my navigation officer for 12 years. She has just informed me that she is human. The same name. Yura looked closer at the woman on her flagship. The same face as the trader in the marketplace broadcast. Except this woman's hands showed the calluses of someone who had worked ship controls for years. Explain, Yura commanded. The human woman on the flagship stepped forward, her posture military perfect. War Chief, I am not the same Hana from that marketplace. I am her sister. We trained together on New Haven, chose different paths for our infiltration missions. She became a traitor. I joined your military. There are many of us, War Chief. In many places. How many? Yura's voice was dangerously quiet. Enough, Hana replied. We have people in your fleets, your stations, your supply chains, your administrative offices. We have lived as loyal members of your empire for decades. Some of us were born here, children of infiltrators from the first generation. We are not your enemies, War Chief, but we are no longer hiding. More alerts cascaded across Yura's display. A human revealed in the Imperial Archives, working as a senior historian for 30 years. Another in the shipyards, designing vessels for the fleet. Another in the agricultural ministry, optimizing food production for the Empire. One by one, humans stepped forward across dozens of systems, identifying themselves, standing visible and vulnerable in the heart of Kaleth power. Krell turned to Yura, his 4 hands gripping his weapons. War Chief, this is an infiltration on a scale we never imagined. We must respond. We must think, Yura interrupted sharply. They are not attacking. They are revealing themselves. Why? Because they are mocking us, Krell growled, showing us how deeply they penetrated our empire. This is psychological warfare. Or it is something else, Yura said quietly. She activated her private communication link. Bring Tay to the war room now. While she waited, more reports flooded in. The patterns became clear. Humans were not just revealing themselves randomly. They had chosen their moments carefully. Each revelation was in a public place, surrounded by witnesses, with no aggression or violence. They stood calmly, identified themselves, and waited for response. Tay arrived within minutes, escorted by guards. He looked around the war room, taking in the tactical displays filled with red markers. The tense warriors ready for battle, the barely controlled chaos of an empire suddenly realizing it had been infiltrated for generations. Your people move quickly, Yura observed. We have been preparing for this moment for a long time, Tay replied. I told you we were everywhere. Now you can see it is true. You planned this from the beginning. Your capture, your presence here, all of it was to distract me while your people moved into position. No, Tay said. My people were already in position. Have been for decades. My capture was to give you warning before this happened, to give you time to decide how you wanted to respond. That time is over now. Humanity is revealing itself. How you react in the next hours will determine whether we move toward peace or war. Krell stepped forward aggressively. You dare speak of terms, you infiltrators hiding in shadows like parasites. You should think very carefully about your next words, Tay interrupted, his calm voice somehow cutting through Krell's anger. Because every human who revealed themselves today did so, knowing they might die for it. They stood in public squares, on military vessels, in government offices, and identified themselves as human. They made themselves targets. That is not the action of people preparing for war. That is the action of people demanding recognition. Recognition? Yura asked. Of what? Of our right to exist, Tay said simply. For 200 years we hid because you made it clear that humans had no place in this galaxy. Today we stand visible and say, we are here anyway. We survived, we grew. We became part of your empire without you even knowing. Now we ask, will you acknowledge us as people with rights? Or will you try to exterminate us again? You put yourself at our mercy, Krell said. That is not a position of strength. It is a position of honesty, Tay countered. War Chief Yura has said she values honor, courage, truth. We show her all three today. Every human who revealed themselves is trusting that she will respond with wisdom instead of violence. Yura looked at the tactical display, at the hundreds of red markers representing humans who had chosen to stop hiding. She thought about Hana on her flagship, who had navigated her warship faithfully for 12 years. She thought about the historian in her archives preserving Kaleth culture. She thought about all the humans who had lived quiet lives as loyal members of her empire, contributing their labor and skills, asking nothing except the chance to survive. What do you want? She asked Tay, specifically, not philosophy or principles. What are your terms? Simple recognition, Tay said. Allow humans to live openly without fear of extermination. Acknowledge that we exist as a species with rights equal to any other in your empire. Let our children grow up knowing what they are without shame. In exchange, The humans who have already integrated into your empire will continue serving as they have been. Faithfully, loyally, but as humans, not as hidden imposters. And the colonies? The hidden worlds? Remain autonomous, Tay said. We do not ask to rejoin galactic civilization fully. We are not ready for that. But we want the option. We want our children to choose whether they stay in the colonies or venture out into the wider galaxy. We want to trade, to travel, to participate in the universe without pretending to be something we are not. You ask for acceptance? From the empire that destroyed you. We ask for acknowledgement from the war chief. Who has the power to make that choice, Tay corrected. Your empire follows your lead. If you say humans have a right to exist, your empire will accept it eventually. If you say we must be destroyed, they will try. But War Chief Yura, think carefully about what kind of war that would be. A war we would win, Krell interjected. Would you? Tay looked at the younger warrior calmly. You just discovered that humans have been living among you for generations, working your ships, managing your food supplies, accessing your systems. If we wanted to sabotage, to attack from within, we could have done it years ago. We did not. That should tell you something about our intentions. But if you force us into a war, if you make it clear that humans cannot exist peacefully in this galaxy, then yes, we will fight. And it will not be the clean war you remember from 200 years ago. The war room fell silent. Yura stared at the display, at her empire suddenly shown to be more porous than she had believed, at the impossible situation that humanity had created by refusing to stay extinct. War Chief, Krell said quietly, the Council will demand action. If we show weakness now, quiet, Yura commanded. She turned to Tay. Where is your leadership? If we are to negotiate, I will not do it with a messenger. They are watching, Tay said, waiting to see if negotiation is possible. If you truly want to speak with them, I can arrange it. But you must give a sign first. Some gesture that shows you the Emergency War Council convened at midnight. Yura entered the chamber to find not just her usual 12 advisors, but representatives from all major military commands, civilian governors, and intelligence branches. 50 of the most powerful figures in the Kaleth Empire, and every one of them looked angry, afraid, or both. General Krell stood at the center, his posture aggressive. He had called this council without her permission, a breach of protocol that bordered on insubordination, but within the bounds of Kaleth law, senior commanders could convene emergency sessions when they believed the Empire faced existential threat. Yura could not dismiss them without hearing their concerns. War Chief? Krell began formally. We gather to address a crisis that threatens the foundation of our empire. For 200 years, we believed humanity extinct. Now we discover they have infiltrated every level of our society. They work our ships, manage our supplies, access our most secure facilities. This is an invasion from within. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Yura sat in her command chair, forearms relaxed, but her 3 hearts beat quickly. She had expected this confrontation. Humanity has revealed themselves, she said calmly. They have made no aggressive moves. They have harmed no one. What is the crisis you speak of? The crisis is trust, Admiral Nira spoke up, her voice pained. The fleet commander looked like she had aged years in a single day. War Chief, I have a human navigation officer who has served on my flagship for 12 years. I trusted her with my life, with the lives of my crew. Now I discover she was lying about her very nature. How can I trust anyone now? How many others are hiding among us? They are not hiding anymore, Yura pointed out. That was the purpose of their revelation. To stop lying. To mock us, Krell corrected harshly. To show us that we have been blind fools for generations. War Chief, with respect, your order to stand down was premature. We should have detained every revealed human for interrogation. We should have begun security sweeps of all critical systems. Instead, you gave them 24 hours of freedom to do whatever they plan next. I gave them 24 hours to demonstrate peaceful intent, Yura replied, as they have so far, because they know we could destroy them. Krell slammed one fist on the tactical table. War Chief, I have served under your command for 90 years. I have never questioned your judgment. But I must speak now. The Council believes you are compromised by the human prisoner. We believe your personal fascination with him has clouded your strategic thinking. The chamber went silent. Accusing a war chief of compromised judgment was a serious charge, one step below challenging for command. Yura stood slowly, her full height drawing every eye. You believe my judgment is clouded? I believe you are hesitating when action is required, Krell said, holding his ground. The human threat must be neutralized immediately. Every day we delay gives them opportunity to prepare, to coordinate, to strike. We should use orbital weapons to sterilize the worlds where we suspect human colonies exist. We should execute the revealed humans as warnings. We should make it clear that humanity's attempt to resurface will end only in their extinction. Genocide, Yura said quietly. You advocate genocide. I advocate survival, Krell countered. War Chief, you taught me that mercy toward enemies is weakness. You taught me that the only good victory is total victory. You destroyed Earth without hesitation 200 years ago. Why hesitate now? Yura looked around the chamber, seeing agreement in too many faces. Fear made them cruel. Fear made them stupid. I destroyed Earth because humanity fought us openly, threatened our expansion, challenged our power. These humans are not fighting. They are asking for recognition. They are manipulating you, Krell insisted. Every conversation with the prisoner, every moment you spend in that tower weakens your resolve. The war chief I knew would never negotiate with a species she had already defeated. The war chief I knew would finish what she started. Perhaps, Yura said, her voice carrying edge now. The war chief you knew was missing something important. Perhaps 200 years of empty victories taught me that total destruction is not always the answer. Then you admit your judgment is compromised. I admit my judgment has evolved, Yura replied, as it should after 2 centuries. Tell me, Krell, how many wars have you personally commanded? 17 campaigns, War Chief, and I have commanded over 100. I have destroyed more species than you have fought. I have earned more victories than you will see in your lifetime. So when I tell you that this situation requires thought instead of violence, you will trust that I know what I am doing. Forgive me. War Chief, another general spoke up, a cautious older warrior named Vex, but the council has discussed this matter extensively. We have taken a vote among senior commanders. 12-3, we believe the human threat requires immediate military response. We ask that you authorize Operation Purge, systematic elimination of all confirmed human locations. Yura felt cold settle in her chest. They had voted behind her back. They had prepared an operation without her input. This was not just questioning her judgment. This was the beginning of removing her from command. And if I refuse to authorize this operation? She asked quietly. Krell stepped forward, his posture shifting to formal challenge stance. Then with deep regret I invoke the right of contest. I challenge your fitness to lead this empire in its current crisis. I demand trial by combat for command of the Caliph military forces. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. The right of contest was ancient law, rarely invoked but absolute. Any senior commander who believed a war chief was leading the empire toward destruction could challenge them to ritual combat. Winner took command. Loser died. Yura stared at Krell, seeing ambition finally showing its teeth. He had been patient, loyal, waiting for the right moment. Her hesitation with the human situation had given him that moment. You believe you can defeat me? I believe I must try, Krell replied. For the Empire. War Chief, you have grown weak with age, soft with contemplation. The warrior who destroyed Earth would not hesitate now. That warrior is gone. I will restore what you have lost. Yura walked down from her command platform, approaching Krell until they stood face to face. He was younger, faster, hungry for glory. She was older, scarred, tired of meaningless victory, but she was still war chief. You want combat? You shall have it. Traditional rules. Arena combat. No weapons. First to submit or die. Agreed, Krell said immediately. We fight at dawn, before the humans' 24 hours expire. Before you can make any more decisions that weaken us. One condition, Yura added. The human Tay watches. If I am fighting for the right to determine humanity's fate, he should witness what that costs. Krell hesitated, then nodded. Acceptable. It will please me to have him watch you fall. Yura returned to her chambers, knowing sleep would be impossible. Her 3 hearts raced with something she had not felt in decades. Not fear exactly, uncertainty. Krell was younger, faster, and had spent years studying her techniques. He would come prepared for her usual strategies. She needed to fight differently, to be something more than the war chief who relied on practiced moves and overwhelming force. She needed to remember what drove her when she was young and hungry, before victory became routine. Tay was brought to her chambers under guard. When they were alone, he looked at her with those steady human eyes. I heard about the challenge. Will you win? I do not know, Yura admitted. Krell is skilled. He is motivated. And he might be right that I have grown soft. You have not grown soft, Tay said. You have grown thoughtful. There is a difference. In combat, thoughtfulness is weakness. In combat, maybe. But this is not just combat, is it? Tay moved closer, his voice gentle. You are not just fighting for command. You are fighting for the right to choose something besides endless violence. That is not weakness, War Chief. That is the hardest battle there is. You have too much faith in me. I have exactly the right amount, Tay replied. You invited me to watch tomorrow. Why? Because if I lose, if Krell takes command, he will order your death and the extermination of your people. You should see the moment your fate is decided. And if you win, Yura met his eyes. Then I will meet with your leaders as promised, and we will see if humans and Kaleth can find a better path than mutual destruction. What changed your mind? Tay asked. About humans. About everything. What made you decide to try something different? Yura considered the question. You asked me what I wanted. Not what the Empire needed. Not what war demanded. What I personally wanted. No one had asked me that in 2 centuries, and I realized I did not have an answer. But I wanted to find one. Fighting Krell tomorrow is not just about command. It is about whether I continue being what everyone expects, or whether I have courage to become something else. That is the most human thing I have heard you say, Tay observed with a slight smile. Perhaps, Yura replied. Perhaps you humans are contagious after all. They sat in silence for a while, 2 beings from species that should have been mortal enemies, finding strange companionship in the quiet hours before dawn. Finally, Yura spoke again. If I fall tomorrow, tell your people I tried. Tell them that at the end, I saw them as more than enemies to be destroyed. Tell them yourself, Tay said firmly. After Yo, the neutral station hung in empty space between territories, built by the ancient traders who understood that commerce required places where even enemies could meet safely. Yura's ship approached slowly, weapons powered down as agreed. Around the station, 13 other vessels waited, each representing one of the human colonies. They were not military ships, simple transports, modified freighters, vessels built for survival rather than war. Tay stood beside Yura on the bridge, his chains finally removed. They are nervous, he said quietly. This is the first time in 200 years that human leadership has gathered in one place, and they are meeting with the being who destroyed their homeworld. Are you nervous? Yura asked. Terrified, Tay admitted with a slight smile, but also hopeful. That is a strange combination. They docked at the station. Yura brought only a small honor guard, warriors chosen for discipline rather than aggression. The human ships docked as well, and slowly, carefully, the 2 groups moved toward the central meeting chamber. The chamber was simple, round, with a table large enough for all parties. When Yura entered, she saw them. 13 humans, each distinct, each carrying themselves with the weight of leadership. Her warrior's eye cataloged them automatically. Ages ranging from 30 to 70, various builds and features, but all sharing that same steady gaze that Tay had shown her. One stepped forward, an older man with gray hair and steady hands. War Chief Yura, I am Minho. I was 20 years old when Earth fell. I am one of the last survivors who remembers our homeworld before you burned it. Yura met his eyes, seeing the weight of memory there. I offer no apology for Earth. What I did for my empire. But I acknowledge that the cost was paid by your people. Minho nodded slowly. Honesty is a good place to start. Let me introduce the others. He gestured to a woman with scars on her hands and arms. Hana, from New Haven. She represents our hunters and warriors. The same woman who had revealed herself on Yura's flagship stepped forward. Summon, from Brightwater, our medical advances. A woman with kind eyes but something sharp in her posture. Dongwan, from Stone Sky, our engineers and adaptations. A man whose skin showed a slight luminescence, radiation adaptation made visible. One by one, Minho named them. Representatives from all 13 original colony ships, plus leaders from the 13 colonies born after the first landings. Each carried knowledge, each represented decades of survival, each had made the choice to come here despite the risk. When introductions finished, they sat. The humans on one side of the table, Yura and her guards on the other. Tay sat at the junction point between them. neither fully with his people nor fully separate. You called this meeting, Minho said to Yura. What do you propose? Yura had spent the journey here organizing her thoughts, preparing words that would not come naturally to a warrior trained in conquest rather than diplomacy. I propose acknowledgement. Your people have proven that humanity survived despite my best efforts to end you. You have proven that you can hide, can adapt, can infiltrate. You have shown strength through patience and cleverness through survival. I am here to acknowledge these truths. Acknowledgement is words, Summon from Brightwater said, her voice carrying medical precision. We need more than words. We need guarantees. What guarantees can a conqueror give? Yura asked honestly. I destroyed your homeworld. I hunted your species. What promise of mine could you possibly trust? The 13 leaders exchanged glances. Finally, Hana from New Haven spoke. No promise. Action. We want the Keleth Empire to formally recognize humanity as a species with rights equal to any other in your territory. We want legal protection against genocide, against persecution, against being hunted for what we are. We want the revealed humans currently living in your empire to receive citizenship instead of being treated as infiltrators. And what do you offer in exchange? Yura asked. Treaties require balance. Dongwon from Stone Sky leaned forward. We offer what we have learned. 200 years of survival taught us things your empire never needed to develop. Medical techniques that could extend Keleth lifespans by 30%. Genetic therapies that could reduce birth defects in your warrior castes. Radiation-resistant crops that could feed more people with less land. Psychological training methods that could help your soldiers process combat trauma. We offer knowledge freely given, Summon added, instead of knowledge taken by conquest. We offer partnership instead of submission. But we also offer something more valuable. Which is? Yura asked. Perspective, Minho said quietly. Warchief, your empire is built on strength. You conquer, you dominate, you rule through power. That has worked for you. But what happens when you meet a species you cannot conquer? What happens when you face a threat that does not respond to force? You will need allies who think differently. Partners who can see solutions beyond violence. You think humans can be those partners? We think humans have already been those partners, Hana said. The revealed humans in your empire have been serving faithfully for years. Some have been making your systems more efficient, your ships faster, your food production higher. They did this not because they feared you, but because they chose to contribute. Imagine what humanity could do if we worked openly with your empire instead of hiding within it. Yura sat back, considering. Her warrior instinct still screamed that trusting a species she had tried to destroy was dangerous. But her newer understanding, the one born from weeks of conversation with Tay, suggested something different. You said 13 colonies developed different specializations. Show me. The humans nodded. One by one they demonstrated. Solman from Brightwater pulled out a medical scanner, showing genetic therapies that could repair damage Keleth physicians considered permanent. Dongwon from Stone Sky placed his hand on the table, and where his skin touched, a faint glow appeared. Energy his body generated naturally from radiation exposure. Another representative demonstrated enhanced strength, lifting weights that should have been impossible for human frame. Yet another showed the psychic resonance Tai had mentioned, creating a holographic projection of herself that looked and felt real enough to fool scanners. 200 years, Minho said when the demonstrations finished. 200 years of evolution pushed by necessity. Each colony faced different challenges. Each developed different solutions. Separately, we are interesting. Together we represent something unprecedented. Humanity 2.0 evolved not through leisure but through survival. And you would share all of this? Yura asked skeptically. What prevents you from withholding your best advantages, saving them for when you eventually try to overthrow my empire? The question hung heavy in the chamber. Then Minho smiled, a tired expression that carried weight of years. War Chief, I am 78 years old. I have spent my entire adult life hiding, running, watching my people pretend to be less than they were. I'm tired of survival. I want to live. I want my grandchildren to know their heritage openly. I want humans to walk proudly again. That is worth more to me than revenge. He gestured to the others. We all feel this way. Yes, we could fight you. Yes, we have advantages you do not know about yet. But fighting means more hiding, more fear, more generations growing up in shadows. We did not survive 200 years just to spend 200 more living as ghosts. We want peace. We want recognition. We want a future where human children can look at the stars and dream of visiting them without shame. Yura felt something crack inside her chest. Not her heart's, but something deeper. The certainty that had guided her for 2 centuries. The belief that conquest was the only path. The assumption that strength meant domination. This old human, who had lost everything to her ambition, was not asking for revenge. He was asking for the simple dignity of existence. If I agree, Yura said slowly, if I grant humanity recognition and protection, my empire will resist. Many will see it as weakness. Some will challenge my decision as Krell did. Your presence will cause conflict within Kaleth society. We know, Tay said quietly. We are asking you to choose difficulty instead of simplicity, to choose growth instead of tradition. That is harder than just destroying us. But it is also better. Yura looked at each human face around the table. Then she stood and her guards tensed until she waved them to calm. I am war chief of the Kaleth Empire. I have destroyed more species than most beings have met. I have conquered hundreds of worlds. I have built an empire that spans more space than any before it. And despite all of that, I have found no meaning in victory. She walked slowly around the table, speaking as she moved. When you revealed yourselves, when your people stood visible in my empire, I felt something I had not felt in decades. Fear, yes, but also curiosity, wonder, the possibility that maybe there was more to existence than the next conquest. You represent something I thought I had destroyed. Not just humanity as a species, but humanity as an idea. The idea that beings can survive impossible odds. That cleverness matters as much as strength. That there are paths besides dominance and submission. She stopped walking, facing Minho directly. You asked for acknowledgement. I give it. Humanity exists. Humanity has rights. Humanity will be recognized as a species with full legal protection within the Kaleth Empire.